Hello and welcome to your September 2020 edition of Newsroom WolvHaven. Coming up, controversy over Ministry of Infrastructure and National Development poll, Gardelia Infrastructure Grant System Bill passed by Parliament, Discord overhaul rolled out, and testing for 1.16 underway. I'm Perfect Trains in One North, and you're watching Newsroom WolvHaven. On the 14th September, United WolvHaven Ministry for Finance, Trade and Economy and a member for the Ministry for Infrastructure and National Development put up a poll in the hashtag Gardelia channel asking which product players found more important, the Gardelia Westlandia Airport or the Gardelia Highway System. While a clear majority, 15 out of 21 participants, voted for the second option, the poll still caused controversy with fellow member of the Ministry for Infrastructure and National Development, member Heyope, probably criticising the poll and accusing the government for reneging on their election promises to complete the Gardelia Westlandia Airport. Server admin and principal staff officer Josh also chimed in, stating he believed that the priority should be placed on the airport's completion as the airport is easier to finish and the player experience would be better by having transit between worlds be through airports. He also notes that very few players actually use the expressways. United WolvHaven Minister for Home Affairs, Grass_Jenny, defended the poll, stating that the poll was necessary as COVID restrictions were gradually lifted worldwide, and thus more people are returning to their normal lives, resulting in a decrease in manpower. He also notes that the expressways were easier to build than the airport as they were basically /stack jobs. In addition, the minister added that the poll results were not definitive and the mine was simply asking for feedback. Heyope hit back, saying he felt disrespected for waiting since the election for an opinion poll with the option of not building the airport. Grass_Jenny responded, noting that the general consensus favoured expressways and noted the need for flexibility. He also noted that the airport functionality will serve little to no purpose due to the number of airports in Gardelia at the moment, adding that expressways may be more easily be able to connect the claims around Gardelia at the moment realistically. Principal Staff Officer and Admin Josh chimed in once again accusing United WolvHaven of failing to deliver an election promise and hiding behind people's opinion. Josh added that he better not hear fake promises next term if he didn't decide to simply dissolve Parliament altogether. These statements caused controversy with players wanting to stay anonymous, telling Newsnet that Josh should have chosen his words better, especially in a public channel. And another question in if he overstepped his bounds whether this is constituted an abuse of power. A third player speculated that the principal staff officer opposed the bill due to unwillingness to deal with certain players and organisations if the expressway plans were to go ahead. The row ended up with Josh publicly announcing that he and Grass_Jenny had cleared things up via the direct messages, and United WolvHaven Minister for Infrastructure and National Development, Captain Slow_, announced that the poll would not be used for any decision making. The Gardelia Infrastructure Grant System Bill, proposed by United WolvHaven Ministry of Finance, Trade and Economy, Bargain Admin, was passed by Parliament anonymously with 14 ayes. The bill aims to introduce a grant system in order to allow, quote, infrastructure not planned by the Ministry for Infrastructure and National Development to still be partly financed by Central Funds account, as long as they, quote, meet certain requirements. For more on the bill, we spoke to the Minister for Finance, Trade and Economy, Bargain Admin, earlier this month. So, Bargain Admin, why did you oppose the bill?
The reason we decided to propose this is because we've seen recent surge in private infrastructure projects. For example, the NWGA has been doing intercity projects for a long time, which have basically been built at zero cost. Same for One North, they've been building some sections of mainland that have been done for free. And they recently contracted out privately a section of expressway. And so basically what we've realized is that there's a lot of potential for private projects, which are privately planned by individuals. But a lot of these projects can't come to fruition because some players don't have the funds to cover the costs of building these projects. And so we want to provide that support. And at the same time, these private projects most of the time do benefit Gardelia, and they also take out of some of the workload from the Ministry of Infrastructure, because currently we're only planning high priority projects such as some major expressways and some major mainlines. We can't plan every single little project, so we're basically delegating this task to other players, and in turn they're going to be getting compensated for their work.
Concretely, how does this bill work?
Yeah, the process is quite simple. So let's say I want to plan an expressway from my city to another player's city. So the first thing we would do is we would make sure that we have permission. So we would mark out a route on Dynmap, and then we would get permission from the Gardelian department for the actual project. Afterwards, we would put this contract up for bidding privately. So we would find a contractor to work on this project, and then we would negotiate pay with the contractor. After all this is figured out, so we've got approval from the Gardelian department, and we've chosen a contractor, and we've chosen their pay, then we would fill out a form. We basically input all the information. So we put a picture of the route, we put the contractor, we put how much we're paying them, and we put how much of the total cost we want to be covered. And then basically every month, every administrative day, the Ministry of Infrastructure would review these, and then they would release results of how much they're funding each project.
What are some of the criteria for a grant request to be accepted?
The criteria that we've laid out are quite simple. So the main kind of deciding factor is whether or not the project actually has a use, whether or not the project actually has a tangible benefit for Gardelia. So for example, if it's just like a small train line connecting two existing cities, that would probably receive little to no funding. But if it's a project that kind of fulfills an underserviced area, so for example, let's say I want to build a main line in the southeast, or I want to build a private railway in the southeast, and I'm going to add claimable stations along this rail line, that would most likely receive approval because there's no existing train services there. It's following a brand new route, and it's actually creating some benefit by adding some new claimable stations. Other basic factors that we take into account are whether or not it's approved by the Gardelia department. If there's no approval, we're going to reject it instantly. And another factor that we take into mind is income. So if the person who is planning a project or financing a project has a very high income, we're most likely not going to be giving them a lot, if at all, because they could easily pay for the cost of the project. But if it's a lower income player who obviously can't finance this project without significant help, then we would be willing to foot more of the cost, if not cover the whole cost of the project.
Thanks for that. Stay with us here on Newsroom WolvHaven. We'll be back after a short break. On the 2nd of September, the WolvHaven Discord overhaul was announced by WolvHaven's Discord expert, Admin Karu. There were a few changes that were announced and then put into effect in the same day, most notably a complete overhaul of the verified role that essentially enables players to access more channels in the Discord server, such as #server-chat. The overhaul meant that the pre-existing verified role would cease to exist after a grace period of 1 week, where those who are not already re-verified or are new visitors in-game using the Discord link will be given the new visitor role. The new verified role now enables access to all non-optional channels, meaning that players with the visitor role would only have access to a handful of channels such as #immigration and #verification. Other changes include the Parliament channels being added as an optional role for those who would like to have access to it. Initially, some players in the WolvHaven Discord server expressed a lot of confusion as many players did not know about the announcement nor the instructions on how to get re-verified, but eventually most issues were sorted out by staff and other fellow players. On the 3rd of September, system admin Nick Solis announced that the commencement of the 1.16.2 testing for the server, which includes new Nether content. As of now, the upgrade to the new version seems to be ready, however optimizations for specific plugins are needed before the move. Luckily, to the delight of all players, Nick Solis reported a noticeable TPS improvement, which has been one of the common issues experienced during the 1.13 and 1.15 server upgrades. And we end on a positive note. On 17th of September, system admin Nick Solis announced that as of September 16th, 2020, donations have funded server costs until October 2020. He also took the opportunity to thank the donors for their generosity. And that's it for this edition of Newsroom WolvHaven, and thanks for watching.